What's up everybody, today we're going to be reacting about something that regards you, yes you, and that's what kind of World of Warcraft player are you? So let's see!
What type of player still plays WoW in 2024? The elitist? The casual? The Plunderstorm Conqueror? Modern WoW keeps changing and the players with it, but some people don't like that. Are they wrong or right? Who is still playing WoW in 2024? You might be thinking it's you, but it really isn't. At least not you specifically. On our YouTube channel at least.
Oh, you never actually quit World of Warcraft. So if you're watching this video, you are most likely playing WoW, or you're gonna be playing it again at some point.
We know we have a lot of people that watch our content despite not actually playing WoW anymore. We know because you guys told us. First of all, that's a really cool thing for us. Our content is good enough where people that don't play still watch it. It's pretty dope. Very humbling.
Trust me, even if you're not playing right now, you're gonna come back. It's gonna happen.
Also, and we appreciate you guys. But that also says something else. As much as we would like to think our content is the golden geese's egg, most likely is the fact that those people not playing but watching our content want the game to give them a reason to play in 2024. So if those guys aren't playing, then who is? Again, who is playing in 2024?
I mean, if you're looking for reason to come, there is literally like, now the community is like completely thrown apart. You have WoW Classic, you have Hardcore, you have Season of Discovery, you have Retail, you have Remix, you have Plunderstorm, you literally have every single variation of WoW you would want. So you just have to pick your own poison, like literally. If you want to play World of Warcraft, you're definitely gonna find some kind of World of Warcraft you want to play.
And because 2024 is yet another year that houses cognitive dissonance, biases, and echo chambers, I will mention this now for the person watching 3 seconds of the video after reading the title and thinking they have the topic figured out already. I understand that there are all kinds of people playing the game and there isn't one label to encompass all of them. It's hard to talk about anything if we don't establish a premise, so let's do that now. Likely the most vocal and active player base, based on our experience, is comprised of the people in our guild, the people we pug with, the people we craft stuff for, the people in our streams we raid with and do dungeons, and the people we see do WoW content online. Which, if we extrapolate, can apply to more guilds, maybe most guilds, other pugs, maybe most pugs, and so on. Maybe. I would be surprised to find out we are totally off, even if we miss a segment of the community. With that being said, and if you think otherwise, let us know in the comments. Let me tell you about the WoW player in 2024. To talk about the modern WoW player, we have to talk about modern WoW. WoW right now is like a recovering patient after a long disease. You may or may not be aware of what happened in Shadowlands, but Shadowlands was just the moment where WoW was taken to the emergency room for surgery.
I mean, BFA and Shadowlands were pretty bad expansions. But I think that Dragonflight was pretty nice. Or at least, that's what most people think. Or maybe they're just like comparing it to what it was before that. And I do think that with the new 3 expansions announced, Retail definitely has some potential in it. The War Within and so on. I guess we're gonna find out very soon.
Now we are in the casts, bandages, and stitches part of the game's healing. What do I mean by that? Well, think about it for a second. Dragonflight did the biggest thing since probably Legion. It revamped all of the specs and added a new class. You might not think that's what happened, but from a multitude of points of view, you would be wrong, and here's why. The talent system being revamped meant that, sure, some specs kind of still play or do the same stuff as before, but even those do it better, more polished, and with less friction. Specs like Frost Decay struggled with expanding its identity from Breath of Sindragosa dual-wield playstyle to a two-hander obliteration gameplay now that we have, and a combination of both in Season 4 that's just around the corner. This was not even on the horizon pre-Dragonflight, even though they tried to make it a thing in Shadowlands. And this is just the worst example. If one of the least reworked specs could have all of the playstyles people liked about it viable, then we can only go up from here. Talent combinations we never had before became a possibility, and if not, then actual reworks happened to a bunch of specs that added some of the player base's most favorite gameplay mechanics into them, like old legendary and tier set effects. These changes for the game were unthinkable in Shadowlands and earlier, yet we had them. It's still not perfect though. There's much more work that needs to be done for WoW to be better and bring back old players into the fray, let alone new blood. And
I don't think that the whole bringing old players back is going to work because of one simple reason. Like, the whole classic versus retail has to be looked from one point of view. Retail is never gonna be World of Warcraft. Retail, if you look at retail as a different game than what classic WoW was, you're going to enjoy it a lot. Like, I look at retail as something that has really good PvP, really good raids, just an overall very good competitive scene. But does it really carry the traditional vanilla vibe of WoW, just experience the world, interact with anything? I don't think so. I think that's we have classic, especially up until Lich King, you can experience World of Warcraft as it is, and it's not going to be the same in retail. And I don't think they should be going for it, or they are going for it. So I don't really think that you should go in with that idea into retail and expecting something like that. Just go into retail with a fresh idea that the game is going to be different and it's going to be good as a different game.
now we come down to who is actually playing the game, and I think the best example for this was Plunderstorm. The actual event came as a surprise for everyone, and I think it was both good and bad at the same time, but mostly good. Let me be fair to the player that doesn't like Plunderstorm. It's not WoW. I get it. It isn't WoW. It's something else. Is it something WoW needs? Not sure, to be fair, but the problem with Plunderstorm mostly is the problem we had with Diablo Immortal.
You guys not have phones?
Yeah, you guys all have phones, right?
It's not what the players asked or wanted, but that alone wouldn't be the problem if it didn't just come at a time when people wanted more WoW content. If Season 4 came in with a new raid and dungeons, most likely the backlash against Plunderstorm wouldn't have been as large. People will always complain though, so that's never going to go away. This is mostly concerning our topic of discussion, so won't go too deep, but the reason Plunderstorm is relevant is because it exposes the modern WoW player in 2024, the one that is outraged that we got this and not a new raid or new dungeons. But
I mean, I don't even think you should look at Plunderstorm in such a way if it expands WoW or not. The reason is simple. It's a battle royale. Battle royales are popular. They bring in profits, and it's as deep as that. It just brings profit, and everybody plays battle royales nowadays. So it's pretty obvious.
why and
Let's get deeper
how?
than that.
Well, first of all, we need to talk about why Plunderstorm is good, which is mostly for the same reasons augmentation is good. The game needs to have the devs be willing to try new things, try to risk certain designs to create cool new stuff for WoW. WoW cannot stay the same old 8 dungeons, 8 new raid bosses, same gear every 5 months. It won't get better and more people will get bored. Augmentation, although it messes with the meta, composition and community reception, is a new take on a role someone has in a group. It could be polished a lot more. Maybe move to a healing spec and not a DPS spec, or I don't know, maybe both. Who knows? There are plenty of ways the support concept can be taken into the future. And as with Plunderstorm, I am fully aware that it's not in an ideal state and the friction it creates sucks to have to play through, but it is needed. First of all, there being friction kind of forces the devs' hands to take more immediate action, whether it is
In any case, you know what Plunderstorm reminds me of? You're an actual OG. If back in the day used to play custom Warcraft free maps, the Frozen Throne, for example, had amazing custom maps. That's what it reminds me of, basically.
with class balance or redesigning the support spec. As a consequence, lo and behold, we now have some of the tightest spec balance we have ever seen in the game, with the 1 or 2 odd exceptions. It's no secret that the current version of WoW does not only not pull back old players, but definitely not new ones either, and mostly because it's increasing convoluted design systems like gearing, having so many layers to it. And this is a good example that defines the modern WoW player, and to avoid pointing the finger at you, I will instead point it at me. I actually like the gearing system in terms of its functionality. I like that the gear I loot scales with the difficulty of the content I do, and if I play something that's under-geared and loot a piece of gear that's weaker, I can at least upgrade it to an either competitive level with the content I like to climb to, or at least capable of letting me do said content that gives me.
If there is one thing which they're implementing of trying to bring old players, which isn't old players, but it's basically the current player base, which is classic, to retail, is basically the WoW Mists of Pandaria remix right now. It's obviously what everybody knows and is discussing the point of that behind. It's basically just trying to get people to experience retail, maybe somehow enjoy it, and then buy retail and start playing it, which I don't really see how it's gonna happen from the mop remix with the Dragonfly talents and so on, but I don't know, maybe.
Better gear. I like that as a mythic raider and someone doing keys over 20, I can loot the best gear in the game and have it be better than somebody's who doesn't do content as high as I am. It makes me feel like I'm getting rewarded for pushing myself as a player. I also don't actually like the fact that there are so many variations of it, and this maybe pushes my point of view from the average WoW players. I actually think it's pretty silly to have Explorer, Adventurer, Veteran, Champion, Hero, Awakened in Season 4, and Myth track, and then Flight Stones, Whelp Crest, Drake Crest, Worm Crest, and Aspect Crest that are all working to upgrade gear, but not all gear and not with all of the material. It's a lot of words and a lot of individual items that need to accomplish something simple, something that needs to solve a problem that the game creates on its own.
I do agree with this. Not a single MMO has profited from having systems that are way too overcomplicated when they could be way more simple.
On with its multiple layers of difficulty content. That's a topic for another time. All of these issues, for instance, could be solved if the currency still drops relative to the difficulty of the content, and I can use it to make an explorer item and turn it all the way into a myth item eventually, with enough mythic bosses killed or enough +20s done in time. But the fact that my progression gets stunted a bunch of times along the way creates a more convoluted process that will make new players say, wait, what the fuck do I need to do again? And we can take this to other aspects of the game and eventually summarize a new player or returning player's perspective on modern WoW. So the players still left playing the game are players who are fine with this system. Now, does that mean that they're wrong? I don't know. Is WoW a better game with fewer players but more loyal and fine with overly complicated system that they understand because they just haven't quit the game? WoW became popular when it was a more simple game, and it still is becoming popular when it's getting simplified. Look at how many more people play 10.2 now that even the gearing system is a little less
like I said, simplicity is always going to be better. Nobody likes overcomplicated, be it systems, be it the UI just not being overcomplicated and so on.
Annoying, dungeons are more accessible, tier sets are less of a pain to grind, classes are getting reworked, and some are simpler to play. And we come back to Plunderstorm. Plunderstorm takes WoW and removes all of the barriers of entry for new and old players.
I don't think that Plunderstorm has any topic of conversation here. We should not put Plunderstorm in the same category as WoW. It's just a battle royale.
No need to read guides on gearing and spec design. No need to grind weeks on end for gear that likely gets obsolete before you completely dress up your toon, and so on. Sure, it's not actual WoW, and that is something for the devs to take into consideration, but it does paint a picture of what WoW needs and why the modern WoW player's opinion sometimes feels it's disconnected from the game. Don't get me wrong, for years we have also been on the game too simple, need more hard camp until we slowly saw what it was turning into. Now, talking about how the game should be isn't the focus of the video, but realizing that we tend to live in echo chambers composed of people sharing our opinion because those who don't are just not playing WoW is important. It's also how the concept of echo chambers is defined. And I don't think the game should be easy or that the WoW player...
I think that people are misunderstanding something. Something being simple doesn't mean it's easy. You can have, for example, let's take a look at vanilla PvP. It can be simple to have lesser spells and items and so on, but it's way harder to execute combos and play properly with the simple skill set you have. So something being simple does not mean it's easy and so on.
Player in 2024 is necessarily wrong, but the player is definitely loud, and we hear this on YouTube videos, streams, and forums, and right now as you're watching this video. Maybe I'm wrong. Not every voice carries the same intellectual value, however, and we do have wonderful community gems that showcases the lack of implementation of think before you act, or in this case, type a nerd rage virgin juice infused post on the forums. Maybe the
classic PvP versus PvE player, classic.
WoW player isn't wrong, but the game has to be something more than just log in, do your keys, farm your one mount or legendary, guild raid, do the weekly event, log out, rinse and repeat every
Like I said, that's what retail is about now, but I don't think that's too bad in a way, because like I said, WoW is not gonna be what it was back in the day. It's just about having a very, very competitive game, which is definitely different than just immersing and experiencing the world of vanilla WoW.
Single week for 6 months. The game needs and will change, and for that we need more different kinds of players. Players that will come back once new shit gets put into the game. Maybe not battle royales, although cannot wait to trio queue with Marcellian and the gang, but stuff that devs can take a chance on and not get roasted by entitled hamster wheel carrot chasing wonderful snowflakes that forgot what it meant to just have fun for fun's sakes. It doesn't always have to be about the quantifiable reward at the end of the road. WoW doesn't just have to be about how much eye level did you get this week or how high has your IO score climbed since last tyrannical reset. WoW can just be about fun, and classic players prove this. Not so sure about the Seasons of Discovery monkeys that ask players for parses and logs. Feels like those are just extreme version of retail players that got tired to kill Frog for the legendary. But there was a reason why WoW was popular when fun was the end goal and not just number grinding. Maybe it's not great that you have to play Plunderstorm, a game mode you don't like, to get a MOG in the actual game. Or maybe if you like Plunderstorm, it's nice to get a reward you can use in-game after the event goes away. Or just maybe WoW is changing, and closing our eyes to the change isn't the way forward to have a more fun experience, because at the end of the day, it's just a fucking video game. So let's just have fun and play.
Yeah, what do you think about it? I'm genuinely curious. Are you a retail player? Are you a classic player? Do you agree with what I'm saying, that the games are fundamentally different, and they are going to be fundamentally different? Both of them have their plus sides, both of them have their negative sides. It's just what you choose to play. Write down in comments what you think, and also make sure to subscribe to this channel.